All right, it's Reusse Unchained on a Friday. A quick shout out to our friends at Summit Orthopedics helping us power this episode. If you're dealing with any type of pain, maybe you're on the injured list, you're limited for weekend activities, could be back, neck, whatever it is, no referrals are needed, and Summit Orthopedics offers same-day appointments. If you're really hurting, they also offer urgent care, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 25 locations in the Twin Cities and greater Minnesota. Learn more at summitortho.com, summitortho.com. Has Josh Dobbs fever overtaken you, Patrick, this week?
I was out in western Minnesota yesterday and talking to football people, and Josh Dobbs was mentioned on several occasions by various people out there in the hinterland. So, yes, he is. People were very excited about that performance, to say the least. And then when they start to learn more about the fella, they become more and more intrigued by him because, my God, he played at Tennessee. He played in the SEC. What are the odds of him being smart? Yeah. Well, he's a genius. What are the odds? I mean, he's defeated 1 in 100 odds. He's a genius in addition to being an SEC quarterback or a football player, But virtually, when we think of the SEC, we think of that guy with the mask on that is smoking as much dope as he can that got drafted in the first round.
Tunsil. He's a good player too.
That's what we think of.
Yeah, mask.
I can't get enough junk in me just smoking a cigarette. I gotta get that damn face mask on me so I can suck in all the
Those are legal now in Minnesota, right? You can wear your bong mask without ridicule now in Minnesota,
yes,
can't you?
Probably can.
Technically, yes.
You probably can, but he looked like the guy in Silence of the Lambs when they went into the store.
How did we get here from Josh Dobbs? I'm not quite sure, but I love the path we've taken.
Josh Dobbs is, so opposite of what you expect from a SEC football player. And you listen to him talk, he's got a sense of humor, and Chip had a great column yesterday on the NASA guys love him. They want to put him to work when he gets done playing football. So from doing his brief internship down there, Chip said they set up a whole FaceTime thing for him, and talked to the PR person, was excited as hell, and then they got 2 or 3 of the big hitters on the. And then he knew he was in good shape because the main guy he talked to had a Tennessee T-shirt, sweatshirt on, so he was a UT guy too. So anyway, yes, but we got Josh Dobbs fever. Let's hope that he plays good.
He launched a podcast just like 5 or 6 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure. With it's with 3 other guys. One of them is Trey Smith. He's one of the starting guards for the Chiefs. And little did they know that this thing was gonna happen. And it's gonna blow their podcast up. But
it went from 500 listeners to 50,000.
So they did this episode on Monday, and they all jump on, and they're like, "Well, let's talk about what just happened this last week." And it's 30 minutes. I'll try to tweet it out if I remember, so people can click in. But my biggest takeaway was this dude he's a genius. He's affable. He's funny. He's smart. He's all these different things. And he goes in depth explaining how, like in the most humble way possible. They said, so like, when did you start throwing to the receivers that week? It was pregame warmups. I didn't get any reps all week. He goes, and then, I took and then he goes, then I come in, I take the first safety of my career. Then I fumble. And the defense somehow like holds them to 5 points, and then we start clicking and stuff. But it's I don't know. You watch it and you come away just thinking, "Wow, this guy is really likable and impressive."
But let me say for the second time this week, why don't we have the receivers stay out there for 15 minutes after they're done with the first team quarterback and have him throw him some balls? What the hell is wrong with? Why do all the passes have to be thrown by Jared Hall? Hey, we got this other guy. Something might happen. He might sprain an ankle. We didn't think concussion. But let's let him at least see how fast this, say like, okay, Addington, run as fast as you can down the field so I can figure out how far out in front of you I should throw it, right? Just one time. Come on, let's see what you can.
Yeah.
So it seems extremely stupid to me that we have this precise number of plays that we can run each day, and we don't have any limits on
The CBA might
in-season
limit you.
practice.
They
do
could
we?
keep him around for a few practices, like for a few throws. Like you can't run a second practice, but you could definitely throw to him. But Patrick, the great thing about this entire story is this: no matter what happens from here on out, Josh Dobbs is assured of being in Vikings lore as if nothing else, a one-hit wonder on the good side. And in fact, I went through a list of 4 that I did a column about. Eric Gulliford caught 1 pass in 2 years. It was the 45-yard pass from McMahon in '93 to beat the Packers.
Yep.
Scotty Graham was brought out of his job in pharmaceuticals and ran for 100+ yards in back-to-back games.
But he hung around, He hung around.
Now, on the bad side, this is the anti-Josh Freeman game.
Yes.
Where he came off the bench and was terrible and played one game.
After he hit 7 people in the stands with passes. What did we do with him?
He never played again for the Vikings.
We decided he had a concussion-like symptoms, and we benched him because I forgot this. We had announced going into the Giants game he was going to be the starter the rest of that season.
Yes.
So we had to concuss him.
And then the guys working the sidelines with the first down marker said, "You can't have this guy in the game. He might hit me in the head. I might get a concussion." It was unbelievable.
So they gave him a concussion.
It was, Well, it's fun, and he's the fact that he's smart enough to come in at the press conference and introduce himself to the reporters. Like, "Hey, I'm Josh Dobbs. How you doing?" It was it's easy to like, but of course the Kirk Nation's having a hard time with this, aren't they? They can't wait for him to stink, right? So that
there is a section of, I think, of Vikings or Kirk fans that are a little bit perturbed that anyone other than Kirk could be the glue that holds this thing together.
Plus, the way to get to him is say, "Thank God we had a mobile quarterback with that pass rush, because Kirk would have got sacked 7 times." They go nuts when you
tweeted immediately before anything had happened.
Halfway through the game, I tweeted, "Thank God we got a mobile quarterback." But it's great fun. That's it was. I wrote that column Wednesday about, you got your ups and downs in sports. Everybody's depressed, and now we got this guy. There's nobody out to get us as Minnesota sports fans. There's nobody out to get us. We're like everybody else. Sometimes sometimes they call back a punt return and give you a win. Sometimes you let the other team go 50, 85 yards in 3 plays and lose. That's the way it works, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're great, and they're not great, that's for sure. But anyway, it is a lots of it's just it is. The winning streak revitalized Viking interest, obviously, but this is taking it. Everybody's back on board again after the 1-4. It's all over. Let's dump people, and now it's who's a monster these days, by the way? Hunter.
Yeah.
He was unblockable, and now you're in another situation. You can't pay both him and Jefferson. But if Hunter has a great year, maybe you can get a number 1 or number 2. You won't get a 1, but
not anymore, because he's a free. He's be a free agent after the year.
Right.
Their chance to do that was a week ago, and they decided to stay the course.
Yeah, well, there's no reason today not to think you can have a home playoff game, right?
Well, they're a game and a half behind the Lions, and they play the Lions twice. So it is. I would say the Lions are still favorites to win the division, but there is a path.
If you win the division, you get a home playoff game, and you might play the Washington Commanders. They might go 8-9 and make the playoffs, or 9-8, or
Look at Reusse. Even Royce's on the bandwagon now.
This is great. Yeah.
Well, they're better than they were last year because they can play some defense. They can play defense. Yeah. Last year, last year they needed 7 miracles to win 13 games. This year There haven't been any miracles except Josh Dobbs is a miracle.
Yeah, but he also came the first 2 drives. He literally throws up all over the place, and
more than the strip sacks, the safety bothered me because hey, here they come. Do something. Don't just stand there and let them tackle you. And that looked more frightening to me than anything else. Because let's face it, everybody in Minnesota, they saw that safety and said, this is going to be a train wreck.
Yeah, and he even said on his podcast, he basically said exactly what everyone thought was happening on that play, which is I was trying to process a lot of information in a short amount of time.
While I was in the end zone.
Correct. He goes, he's like, we get the ball at the 5-yard line.
You can try that at the 30, but don't do that when you're in the end zone.
Or just take off quicker, which he did eventually.
That's a bad
idea. Just start running. Who cares, dude?
So I got a little tirade here on another topic. If you're ready, are we going to talk a little more Viking?
No, I think we definitely want to talk about the cheap poll ads at some point. But whatever.
The cheap poll ads. That's right. Cheap poll ads.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
But so Marcus today in the Star Tribune basically issued a humongously long apology for the Gophers horse crap non-conference schedule, right? But
I'm reading it right now, yes.
In there's one sentence explaining why they don't play St. Thomas. He sees no benefit. Ben Johnson sees no benefit. And a couple sentences later, we discover that for 6 opponents, including South Carolina Upstate and blah, 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 they paid $685,000 in guaranteed money to draw 4,000 a night if you're lucky, right?
Yeah.
I would say and they paid $110,000 to Florida Gulf Coast, which is coming here, and it's a decent program, but they're going to draw 4,000 like everybody else does, right?
That would have been a fun game 10 years ago.
So let's say you take that 110,000. Now you're down to 575. You give St. Thomas 5,000 to come over, so that's 580. So you just saved $100,000, and you're going to have 11,000 people there instead of 4,000. You dumbheads! What the hell? What is the benefit? The benefit is having somebody watch. That's the benefit. Somebody to pay to get into the game. They're so stupid. It's unbelievable.
But to your point, like, so what's the benefit? Well, like you said, what's the benefit of playing Arkansas Pine Bluff? What's the benefit of playing? Well, you could lose to those teams, and it's not as embarrassing as losing to St. Thomas. That's the real reason, right?
Well, but here's my other thing. Now, despite St. Thomas's stout effort against 3-29 California last year, they lost their best player, and they haven't come close to replacing him. I'm looking at the names there. So you're probably going to beat them, right? If you play them, you're going to beat them. But if you don't, you're going to go 2-18 in the Big Ten. So what difference does it make? What do you think? You're fooling people?
Yeah.
Because, we lost to St. Thomas. God, is this embarrassing? How about finishing 14th for 3 straight years in the Big Ten? Is that embarrassing?
Yeah.
Let's, if you're so bad, I think they might be a little better this year. But if you can't beat St. Thomas, you're going to be terrible anyway. So.
Well, and what's the embarrassment like to your fans? They're gone to recruiting. Last time I checked, you aren't exactly cleaning up the recruiting scene. So like who are you embarrassed by besides yourself?
The 100,000 you saved from playing Florida Gulf Coast and playing St. Thomas instead. Maybe you could slip that into your NIL fund, which is zero basically. Maybe the Christie kid doesn't transfer after this year because you can slip a little money, because the whole Dinkytown thing, that's all flex money. Nobody else is getting any of that money hardly. So
the other thing too is so they played Bethune-Cookman last night.
Yeah.
They basically play an 8-man rotation, and they have to play Garcia 35 minutes to feel comfortable beating Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
I mean, I don't know what we just allow them to I don't know. I gotta go over and see him one of these days and say I disagree with you wholeheartedly. You explain to me. You explain to me what the downside is of having people in the arena. Uh, and and if you didn't believe that was possible, all you had to watch was the hockey teams play each other at the X with what 15,000 people there,
Yeah.
or a huge roaring crowd. Now
Which was a
hockey,
Tommy's home game too,
yeah,
and they made a ton off of that. They
and
did
it was
well.
more, it was more competitive because it's hockey. It's I mean you're not gonna, you're not gonna get blown out in hockey probably, but it showed that there's interest in having them play each other. And they're playing each other in baseball and every other sport. What's the deal in basketball? Women's basketball isn't playing them either, but they'd kill them if they played them. St. Thomas women's team isn't very good. And the new coach, I'm sure, is not afraid to play St. Thomas, but they might not let her because it would be embarrassing for the men if they weren't playing them and the women's team was playing them. Then what's your excuse? So it's why is an old man like me why does he let this stuff upset him so much? Stupidity just drives me crazy.
Because it's your newspaper issuing the apology. That's why it bothers you.
About 40 inches too. About 40 inches. I was reading the whole thing saying, please mention St. Thomas. Well, we finally did one graph.
I think you need to come back at some point in the next couple weeks with a counter column to maybe this and see.
Yes.
Hey, before we
they're trying to compile this, and they point. I mean, as he pointed out in there, they all want wins early. Everybody. Duke. I mean, Duke one year had 13 home games or something, and about two good opponents. But they do you no good because your strength of schedule is like 312 instead of 100. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think you make a bunch of good points. Before we talk about the cheap poll ads, tell the audience where they should be car shopping, Patrick.
I drove that Buick convertible, pounded it out to Morris, Minnesota, and back yesterday. It's got 50 grand on it now, and it's
top down.
No, we didn't do that. It was a little coolish out there in the western part of Minnesota, but that's the fifth new car I bought from Jim Paul and Brett Paul's Valley Group of GM dealers, Hastings, and my guys in Apple Valley. The prices I'm looking at right now are pretty good, and the interest rates are tremendous, 1.9%. And I think that's on the truck. I saw in the truck you can get 0.9%, the Sierra. So, the trouble is my garage, I couldn't put a truck in it. Plus, I don't think I'm a truck guy. I don't think I'm a truck guy. But if you're a truck guy, go out and check that out. Prices are good. The retail is good. I mean, the sticker price on it is good. And then 0.9% interest. It's hard to beat. So, hey, weekend, Saturday, go out there and do some shopping at Hastings, Apple Valley. Jim Paul, Brett Paul's Valley Group of GM dealers, Apple Valley and Hastings.
Yes. Hey, we got a few minutes left here before our Purple Daily live stream here, Pat. So
welcome out there in Morris to the guy I met yesterday who watches Purple Daily every day. So it was thrilling to think of the impact of Purple Daily. That the guy said, I think I know you. But having been in the newspaper business for 50 years, and it took Purple Daily for him to discover that I existed, right. That was a little depressing. But
it's a sign of the times.
Purple Daily, what the hell?
Yep. So, the poll ads have come out through different channels here. Those cheap poll ads, and they I don't know if it was like floating to the trees or what, but some reporters, including The Athletic, have caught wind that the payroll will be slashed in 2024, Pat.
Actually, Falvey told the boys that a month ago. He called in the Pioneer Press and the Tribune and Star Tribune and The Athletic and Betsy, and Doe too. And said, the payroll, we're out $53 million. We don't know where it's coming from. And the payroll is going down we know that the payroll is going down. I think a lot of things in the whole operation are going, they're going to have to trim in several areas. Now, I was surprised to see that what I've read in Bobby Nightingale's story was that 125 is the high end of where they want to be. So that would put them in the bottom 7 or 8, right? That would.
Well, but there's also like 14 other teams dealing with the same Bally problem. So
Yeah.
does the whole thing come down?
I think it does. But yeah, so maybe the average comes down to something. I'm waiting for Scott Boras to perform benediction on this and tell us what's going on. But 125 would be a serious cut from 153. I don't think any of us realize they got that high, actually. But 153 too is what you end up with at the, some of these guys that that's what you end up with at the end of on September 1st. That's kind of what they're doing, so they didn't pay all of 153. But I think what they're telling us is they're going to try to trade Polanco and Kepler and Kyle Farmer. Has he got a contract? He got
arbitration.
Yep.
Well, they're not going to take him. They're not going to let him take him to arbitration. I don't think. I think they'll let him go. Don't you?
Yes.
I think you're probably right.
That's what they got. They got infielders. They got young infielders. So, Kyle Farmer is, when you got that much invested in your shortstop, you got your third baseman of the future. You can't let that. That guy was a decent player for you, but you can't let him take the arbitration. They're also telling you that Michael Taylor won't be back here. They'll probably the backup infielder, out center fielder might be that Austin Martin guy.
Yeah,
they're going to try to have Buxton play center field, but what happens if he plays 10 games and can't play anymore? And then Austin Martin, your center fielder. Whew.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be tough. Yep.
But I don't know. The big loss is Sonny Gray, obviously, but no matter who they ended up with, their pitching will never be as healthy as it was this season. Really, you won't get that many starts out of your main starters. Now, they hope Paddock can replace Sonny Gray. Well, that for a guy who hasn't pitched in 2 years, you all of a sudden think he's going to make 32 starts, and that ain't happening. So, any money they spend, if they get it down far enough, any trades they make's got to be for starting pitching, doesn't it?
Probably,
You're letting Sonny walk, so it's got to be starting pitching. But here's what they got in their favor: the American League Central. That's what they have in their favor. Just like the Vikings have the NFC North, and other teams in town are in the right.
West.
Geography is our friend in most of our sports, so that's what they got going for them. Yeah, they won. Well, how many did they end up winning this year? 86, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, try 82 next year. That still might win the division. I think the Tigers might be the.
Tigers might go spend some money. Actually, they might go get a couple pitchers.
They might. They got a lot to spend, but Milwaukee last year, they won 92 or something with $114 million payroll. So, and then they got beat right away in the playoffs. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of people are screaming and hollering, and I'm not making an apology for them, but that audience we saw for the playoff games, they don't give a damn. They were not there because they were hardcore, foaming at the mouth Twins fans. They were, hey, it looks like they're having fun over there. Let's go over there and see what's going on. They don't, 60% of those people don't even know they cut payroll. They don't. They'll next year, hey, it's opening day. Let's go to the game, see if you could have a few very expensive beers. Here's what they should do. As much as I just had a hell of a marketing idea to mollify you. The same percentage that we cut payroll, we're going to cut beer prices. Yeah. So this is a marketing thing. So you go from 153 to 125. So you go to 5 out of 6. What's that? 87. What's 5 out of 6?
It's like a 15% pay cut.
87. 15% beer cut. Let's start campaigning for that. Make up to the payroll cutting beer prices 15% for next
I love
year.
it.
I'm
I
in.
think
Hire Patrick. Hire Patrick.
Yep.
I might be an old guy, but I have all these new ideas. You know,
It's never too late in life to switch career tracks, and maybe marketing has been your calling here.
I don't
You just
know. I
didn't
want to be the executive director of Purple Daily. That's where they know where you're from, man. That's unbelievable.
Purple Daily, yes, Purple Daily has an audience. It's
You know
very
what
nice.
I'm going to have to do on Purple Daily? I got to watch it sometime.
You should check
Once
that
in a
show out
while-
sometime, Pat.
Once in a while, when the wife, or some nights when we're really bored, we're browsing YouTube, to see what's interesting.
You won't last
Once in a
long.
while, I say, hey, watch this, and we'll watch a little
It's
bit.
a lot
I
of
give you 2 minutes.
speculation. Yeah,
I give you 2 minutes.
Yeah. All right.
All
See ya,
right, Pat. We'll talk to you next week.
Have a good weekend. Gopher basketball taking on San Antonio tonight. They might get their arse kicked. Okay.
Good luck to the Gophers. Yes.
Bye.
All right. That's Reusse Unchained here on Score North.